Hello, Milwaukee Bucks fans. Welcome back to Bucks Latest presented by Fan Arch. I'm your host, Dean Simon. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and also turn on those post notifications to stay up to date and in the know with all the latest Milwaukee Bucks updates. All right, so this first one is coming from the National Sports Collectors Convention in Rosemont, Illinois, just the other day. And Giannis Antetokounmpo was someone that attended that event, and he was there. He was, talking to the fans, signing autographs and things of that nature. And mind you, this is all in the immediate aftermath of Shams Charania of ESPN's report that Giannis, nothing's set in stone with regard to the trade rumors and if he's ever going to officially request a trade, if he's been talking to the front office and talking to his camp about what he's going to do with his future and that nothing's settled. This is all the day or two after that report, that update came out. And while he was talking to the fans, while he was signing autographs, he was basically talking about how he writes his signature and that he's shortened it, obviously, from writing Giannis Antetokounmpo. He shortened it down to just GA and then his number 34. And he was saying, and this comes from an article from Van Fias of Brew Hoop that put this all together. He was talking about that he's signed his name, his full last name about 1,000 times, or the first 1,000 autographs that he did. And then he was like, oh no, I can't be doing this for the rest of my life. And I want to have a long career. I'm going to play like 15 to 20 years in the NBA, so I can't be doing these autographs. And then a fan, an attendant at the event, shouted out all in Milwaukee that Giannis would be spending all 15 to 20 years of his NBA career as a Milwaukee Buck. And Giannis replied with a wink, according to Van Fias, all in Milwaukee, baby. And then the fans said, yeah, and then everybody was screaming, yelling, and then Giannis continues talking about his signatures, talking about the card. But that was pretty event. It's kind of crazy that a story like this all just comes from the fan being courageous enough to say all in Milwaukee, and then to get a positive response from Giannis on that front to be like, yeah, all in Milwaukee, and that confirms a lot of things that we've already kind of known. Not that Giannis is going to 100% spend the rest of his career in Milwaukee, though it, you know, looks as though he may, because you figure that this is the time, or this past summer, the summer continuing, would have been the best time for Giannis to request a trade to really gauge his value, see, the other, like, to help the Bucks see the other offers from the 29 other teams in the NBA. Um, but if he was going to move past this 25 summer and go into next year, and this would have been the time to request a trade. And it felt like to me, if he wasn't going to do it now, then he might not ever. So it looks as though he will remain a Milwaukee Buck for a good portion of his career, if not the rest of his NBA career. And yeah, all of this just, it sprung from a fan basically alleging that, yeah, no, this is all going to be happening in Milwaukee. Um, and Giannis has made it pretty clear in recent weeks, in the past month or so, that while the trade rumors were still flying and he was kind of giving back and forth statements and quotes regarding if he would look elsewhere for a trade, or if he wants to try and compete in a better situation somewhere else, he then, he would always follow it up with, yeah, but I'm still gonna most likely stay in Milwaukee, and at least I'm going back for this year, and we're going to see what happens. And that's the general notion that we've got from Giannis to this point. So one could figure that the Shams update, it was kind of just ESPN and him just trying to make up for the lulls in the offseason, and that we've reached a point in the offseason now where it's the beginning of August and nothing is really going crazy other than the Jonathan Kuminga to Sacramento or to Phoenix rumors. That's kind of all the NBA offseason entails to this point. So he's just trying to stir up drama, stir up some kind of story out of his update. But it seems as though Giannis himself is still fully committed to the Milwaukee Bucks, at least for the time being. So that's a great sign. And speaking of, I thought this was pretty funny. After that update came out, and of course after Shams' big update, the Bucks social media team, at least on X, formerly Twitter, they kind of responded, not they kind of indirectly responded to Shams' update, because while they didn't name names, they didn't tag Shams or anything. Shortly after Shams came out with his report, the Milwaukee Bucks ex admin just tweeted a yawning emoji, which I think is pretty funny. Just saying that the Bucks themselves, Bucks fandom, we're just tired of all these constant Giannis trade rumors, these blockbuster trade proposals, Giannis going to the Hawks for like some package. We're tired, and we know now after several pretty forthright comments and recent quotes that Giannis is preparing to compete for a title with the Milwaukee Bucks, regardless of if they have the kind of caliber of team that can really compete for a title in 2025-26. Giannis is still locked in on trying to be a winner and trying to take home his second NBA championship and Finals MVP. And I just thought that was really funny from the Bucks social media to kind of directly go at Shams a little bit to say like, okay, we've had a kind of enough of this right now. We're just gonna focus on heading into training camp in the preseason and just try to put all of this behind us for now and just try to have a good season with the new pieces around Giannis and to try and figure things out to hopefully have a great year in a weak Eastern Conference in 25-26. And for that to happen, actually, Kyle Kuzma is going to need to step things up. And this is an obvious statement, just going off of what happened in the second half of last year and that terrible playoff run, if you can call it that, that 5-game playoff stint, where Kuz just did not do anything. And of course, for the end of the regular season, after he was traded to the Bucks, his 3-point percentage was a cool 30.7%. And I say that the 3-point efficiency must level up. Again, that's a given for a team with Giannis on it. Like, you need to have space and you need to make yourself a threat from distance. At least you would like your presumed starting small forward or like your best wing on the team to be at least a decent threat from the outside, and that's what Kyle Kuzma has to do. And historically, when Kyle Kuzma was given the opportunity to compete when he was on that 2020 Lakers team, he was a pretty great 3-point shooter, at least consistent enough to make himself a threat, make himself feared, get defenders hugged up on him a little more at the 3-point line to give guys like LeBron and guys like Anthony Davis more space. And he'll have to do the same exact thing for Giannis and Myles Turner and even like Bobby Portis to be successful and to get good shots off. And I say that his rim efficiency must level up, but I really think that it's more about the rim volume because he actually, like looking back at the stats from 0 to 3 feet. This past year is his percentage from that distance. He shot about 74.7% from between 0 and 3 feet from the rim. That's pretty excellent, especially for a wing. But I think my biggest problem was that only 24.2% of his shots, of his total field goal attempts, were taken at the rim, essentially from 0 to 3 feet. So, and that was again in the second half of the year for the Milwaukee Bucks specifically. So I think it's really just the rim volume has to go up. I believe that, again, while he shot 30.7% on threes, more of the percentage of his overall shot diet came from 3-point range, which you're not going to want to see, obviously, if he's shooting 30%. He can shoot however many threes he wants if he can get it up to about 37, 38%. Uh, but for now, he would need to focus on attacking the rim in transition and just getting to the basket because that's what worked for him. But it seemed as though he kind of strayed away from it throughout his first half season with the Milwaukee Bucks. And this is, it's something that he's going to have to continue to build on, and he's going to have to get used to with the amount of fast break opportunities that the Bucks are likely going to get with adding Myles Turner to the team and having point of attack defenders like Ryan Rollins to kind of disrupt things and get easy steals. And Kuzma can factor into that as well. He can definitely get some tips in the passing lanes and be a solid defender, I believe, when he's engaged. So he can contribute to that as well, and he can get easy looks for himself and get himself into a rhythm by driving to the basket first. And I feel as though that's something that he's again kind of strayed away from in recent years. Is that he doesn't start off games aggressive and driving straight to the basket. He'll take a 30-foot three before a mid-range shot, like a clean pull-up at the free throw line. And these are things like habits that are going to have to change for him as time goes on, as the 2025-26 season rolls along. Of course, he's been probably the biggest trade candidate for the Milwaukee Bucks for the past couple of months, but his value is probably at the lowest point that it's ever been in his career. No one really wants him at this point, so he's going to have to prove something in 25-26. He's going to have motivation to at least get his box score figures to a good point or a good place, and that's hopefully going to mean good things for the Milwaukee Bucks throughout the course of all of next season. And while we're talking about Kyle Kuzma, another guy that needs to step things up, even though he didn't have a bad stint with the Bucks throughout his first, I believe he played about 30 games with the Bucks in the second half of the year and had a pretty good 5 game playoff run. That Kevin Porter Jr. needs to step up and. According to fan side, it's Dalton Selly. He put out a piece about him just recently that KPJ needs to return to his Houston form, and it wasn't that impressive. In his 3 years as a Rocket, KPJ was 17.2 points, 6 assists, 4.7 rebounds, 1.2 steals, and the efficiency wasn't completely there. 42.8% from the field, 36% from three, but it definitely could have been a lot worse. And at least his 3 point percentage was at a figure like 36%, where, he's shooting high volume and mostly off the dribble. So that percentage could have totally been a lot worse. Of course, you would like to see 42.8% from the field go up. But Kevin Porter Jr. is going to really need to assert himself on the offensive end, both as an on-ball scorer and pick and roll decision maker. And these are things that we've talked about in recent episodes that he's really going to have to kind of step up in those main categories. But as Dalton Sell says himself, that without Damian Lillard and the Bucks need a new and consistent starting point guard, and that Kevin Porter Jr. is going to most likely assume that role from day one, and we'll see how things progress. Oh, what if Ryan Rollins just shoots up the depth chart and eventually takes over that spot? We don't know. But Kevin Porter Jr., we know that he's skilled enough to lock down that position going into 25, 26. And if he can return to his assertiveness with efficiency, like he did in his Houston days, things could possibly go well in the half court for the Bucks, because they're going to need an offensive initiator outside of Giannis on the perimeter. And it seems as though Kevin Porter Jr. is going to be that guy that steps up and takes on a larger role within the offense. And you can't really be upset at that. Because of the things that he proved, especially in the playoffs this past year. I feel like people don't really realize um, not just how he improved as a scorer efficiency wise, but how he improved as a playmaker, and that he was a great assist to turnover ratio kind of guy. It was like 5.2 assists to 1.7 turnovers. Maybe those numbers are off a little bit, but it was something around that number. And that was much improved from the regular season, especially that last 30 games with the Bucks. So I'm really looking forward to KPJ getting more familiar with playing with Giannis in the pick and roll, and now with Myles Turner. That's going to be a whole nother thing for him, because while he was used to pick and roll with Giannis, it'll be more likely pick and fade with Myles Turner. And, Myles is very versatile, so you could do either or. But he'll have to get used to that as well, and also get more familiar with Bobby Portis in that same kind of role. He's going to have a lot of adjustments to make, but I'm confident that because of his previous experience, and specifically his previous experience with the Bucks for part of last year, that he's gonna, like, of anybody, of him or Cole Anthony or Ryan Rollins, it's going to be Kevin Porter Jr. that's going to have the best chance at not just locking down that starting point guard position, but really building great chemistry of any of the guards on the team with guys like Giannis, guys like Myles Turner. It's just his skill set is, it essentially means that he's going to have the best opportunity to really mesh with these guys. But that's something I'm looking forward to going into next year as well. But anyways, that'll be it for me today. Thank you very much for watching another episode of Bucks Latest presented by Fan Arch. Again, I've been Dean Simon. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on those post notifications to stay up to date and in the know with all the latest Milwaukee Bucks updates. And I will see you guys in the next one. Go Bucks.